Is the spring equinox, and it ushers in lots of release. I should say it ushers out. So lots of time, experience to let things go. Good morning, Deborah. Good to see you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. I'm waiting on a special guest this morning. And I say this morning because it's morning here. Like I said, it's 10 a.m. here. And I'm waiting on a fellow Insight Timer teacher. So, Insight Timer is a meditation and mindfulness app. And you can find it on, your iOS, your, any device, any tablet. And it's where I started during the pandemic. I was exceptionally stressed out. Like many people, I was worried about dying. I was worried about a lot of things. A lot of things came up for me. And I started meditating with Insight Timer, the app, every day, the same meditation over and over every single day. And it literally changed my life. I mean, lots has happened since then. The pandemic started 6 years ago now in March, if you can believe. The world shut down. And lots of things have happened. I'm now teaching journaling and meditation on Insight Timer, and I do that once a week now. I used to do it 3 times a week. Here on Substack, we're leaning into authenticity, leaning into being really vulnerable about life experiences. And Katie and I were going to discuss, and I still will, about, I would say, a religious evolution or spiritual evolution, if you will. So I will start with my story. When I was a kid, so let me back up and say my parents got married when my mom was my mom was 21 and my dad was 23. And my dad was Protestant, which was not favorable in my mom's family. My mom was raised a staunch Catholic. In fact, I didn't find out till later that when she met my dad, she was on a fast track to become a nun. And she was going to go to, she was going to enter into becoming a nun. And she met my dad. And 2 years later, they got married. And I went to Catholic school. So as a kid, we lived in a small town, another small town. I live in a small town now. And we, lived across the street from our Catholic school. We had priests come in and talk to us. We had religion class. We had, lessons, from the Bible. And I was in the choir a little bit later on. It was all and at school, we had mass once a month. So the priests would come and hold mass in the gym once a month. So we would all have to go to the gym, and oftentimes I would be asked to read scripture in front of the school. And so I was a straight A student. I'm the oldest. I'm the only girl. And I was always conditioned by definitely my mom's mom to, quote, look after my brothers. I was conditioned I was a really spirited kid. So I was making up commercials in the mirror when I was a kid. I was put into acting school for kids, which I despised. I found it really scary, and I would always fight. I did not want to be there. I was kind of a shy kid, I think. I was very, very sensitive kid. Still am a sensitive person, but that was not, you know, celebrated, if you will. And, uh, we, were steeped in sarcasm. Our sense of humor was, knocking the piss, if you will. So, teasing, subtle put downs, and I got to be really good at that. Family was everything. My dad had a big family. He's the oldest of 8 children. He's still alive. All of them are still alive, 8 kids, and he's in his 80s now. My mom's family, she was the middle, and, she had an older sister who was 10 years older than her, and, because my grandfather went away to war, and my grandmother worked in a factory, while he was gone, and that continued when he came back. He actually drove a bus. My grandfather passed away in his 50s, and, my grandmother was never the same. She sunk into alcoholism. I know she was a very bitter person. When my parents, split, I was in the 8th grade, so I was transitioning out of school into high school, so from Catholic junior high, we called it, into high school, and everything that I thought was family disintegrated, diminished, disappeared, vanished. I didn't understand. Nobody really explained why they were splitting up. My mom took us out to McDonald's and told us dad was leaving, and he was gonna be living in a bigger city farther away, and, I just found it really difficult as a kid to navigate that. I was a popular kid in school, in the 8th grade, in fact, before they split, I was voted the most likely student someone would come to with a problem, and so I was always listening to folks, tell their stories. I remember thinking always as a young kid that I would always give people the benefit of the doubt that, somebody might say someone was a bad person, but I would make my own assertion, I guess, and, tried very, very hard not to judge. And perhaps that came from my Catholic upbringing. Well, when my parents split, I felt very ostracized. No one in the school, or at least no one would admit. There was one other girl whose parents had split in the whole school. Didn't know who to talk to, felt very alone, felt very confused, had a lot of feelings, didn't know what to do with them, didn't know how to process them. Um, my dad started dating someone new, and he asked me if I would babysit his girlfriend's kids who I'd never met, and I'd never met the kids, and I said, "No." And he didn't speak to me for a really long time. My dad became a born again Christian, a fundamentalist Christian. He started going to a very small church, and it was very hardcore. We jokingly called him a Bible thumper. He certainly was, different, very different than the experience that I had had from him all those 14 years. And, he met a woman at the church. They got together. She had 3 kids of her own, 3 girls from other, father another father, and I think maybe 2 other fathers. And yeah, he started a whole new family. They got married, they had a couple of kids together, and they raised their kids in that fundamentalist religion. He tried very hard to make my brothers and I, so I have 2 younger brothers, one 2 years younger and one was 8 years younger. He's passed away now. And he had a disability. And so when dad started his new family, he really didn't wanna have anything to do with us. At one point, all of us were, at least all of we teenagers, so there were 4 teenagers at the time, my brother, myself, and, my dad's wife's kids, 2 of her kids, 2 of her girls. And they sat us all down one morning and said, "You have until 5 o'clock today to agree to come to church with us, or you'll have to find somewhere else to live." And I, being the oldest, said, "Okay, I'm out. I'll find another place to live." My mom at this time had started with another man, and they had been together for quite some time, living together. He was not a nice man, very verbally abusive, we found out later. And, I stayed with them for a little bit until I could find a place of my own, and I took 2 jobs, and I moved out. Now, by that time, I was in my later teens, so, that was through high school, and to this day, now that is, my dad's, like I said, in his 80s, and now he still, calls me the ringleader in that situation, that I was the one that caused all the ruckus. He still clings very tightly to that doctrine, if you will, a very patriarchal, very fundamentalist Christian, belief system. And I can say through many years of my adult life, I considered that religion was my dad's excuse to eliminate us from his family situation. He chose to not be accountable and to sink himself into his religion. And so there's a complexity to that for sure. I have been married a few times now, and I'm on my 3rd marriage. Person I'm with now, when I met him, he was atheist. I would say I was agnostic. It was difficult for me to let go of the belief system. I think a turning point for me, my mom passed away in 2015. She came to live with me. She had cancer, and it was terminal. She couldn't live on her own anymore, so she came to live with me. And near the end, the priest came and asked me if she wanted last rites, and I asked her earlier, did she want the priest to pray over her? And she said no at that time. Then he came again, and she said no again. And she had been such a staunch Catholic believer for so long, I think. And before that, even before she got sick, she was questioning. And when she passed away, and I didn't, believe so much that she was with my grandmother or with, you know, people that had previously passed away, when I didn't see heaven as some kind of magical place anymore, then I actually really had to deal with my own grief. That there was a finality to her, human life that she had lived. And that was extremely difficult, especially for someone who hadn't felt feelings before, or wasn't able to, or wasn't didn't have the tools to process my own grief, my own pain. It's something I had to walk through in order to really live. It taught me that there is a finality to a human life, that it is not we don't all get an infinite amount of time here on earth to, live out our dreams, to pursue the things we've always wanted to do. Time runs out. And I think before that, when I was believing, "Oh, well, this isn't the end," that I was able then to process grief, that I was able then to take ownership and accountability, and it was a process, a long for me, it was a long process, and not long after, not even a year, it was 10 months after my mom passed, my youngest brother, my youngest biological brother passed away suddenly, and so I had to walk through that grief as well. It was a surprise, and it felt so overwhelming to be processing those 2 losses within a 12-month time frame, and so I gave myself a lot of time to walk through that, pain. And, people would say to me, "Oh, your brother's with your mom now," and things like that, and that I didn't find that super comforting. I really did not. I didn't think that way, and, I had to process a lot. I had to think about a lot of things, the attachment, the blame, I blamed my mom for a lot of things in my life. I blamed the pain. Uh, I lived as a victim for a really long time, being, "Oh, all of this happened to me. All this happened to me," and we just keep repeating over and over these stories. And coming back full circle now to it being the equinox, I think I'm ready to let go of telling all of those stories, of letting them take hold of me, and for that to be my life story. What I'm realizing as my grandmother has passed away, as I mentioned, my mom passed away, her sister then passed away, not long after my brother, and my cousin, uh, my aunt's daughter. So all of these women on my mom's side have passed away. My cousin, only 7 years older than me, cancer. All of these women carried so much anger, rage, bitterness. And I truly believe that I'm here to feel and process all of that and then talk about it. Talk about how hard it is. Talk about how much kinder I could have been to my mom. how much less bitterness I could have had, how much I could have healed had I known how, had I even had a clue that I could actually walk through it and process it instead of going around it. I numbed those feelings, that sensitive nature for so many years with so many things. I was a chubby kid. I started eating my feelings at a really young age. And then I was criticized for that. Criticized for being big, criticized for being, a glutton, if you will, lazy. It, there's so many, and my apologies if anyone is triggered. And I should have given a bit of a trigger warning about eating, and eating disorders. And I walked through that too. I walked through the eating disorder piece. I'm not sure I even realized that's what was happening. And I didn't realize I was numbing for many, many years. And what I was actually numbing. All of those things have come up in just the last few years. I am grateful. I'm grateful for a lot of people who walked me through those things, but I'm actually really grateful for the experience to be able to lean into that vulnerability, be real, authentic. There's so many lessons that I've learned. And part of that, and I'm going to go back to the religion piece, is lately I've been reading some impactful books for me. Things that are happening in the world, externally that are showing themselves to us, the president of the United States, war, so many things, so many oppressive systems just laid to bear in front of our eyes, scrolling through, you know, us being completely mesmerized by and activated by social media, by screens. I am so pissed off, so angry that I never questioned why women were erased from history, why women's voices have been silenced, why women's, presence even anywhere, including the Bible, for God's sakes. Mary Magdalene's books have been discovered a number of years ago. They're becoming mainstream because women are writing about them. Goddesses from Greek mythology rewritten to center males, to center patriarchy. A friend and I talked about a number of years ago, I want to say 4 years ago, how oppressive systems would hold on white-knuckled and double down when systems of oppression would begin to fall. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing them. We're seeing the doubling down of patriarchy, of racism, colonization, colonialism, homophobia, transphobia. I watched recently the Inside the Manosphere. I'm so glad that I did. So glad that I did. because as shocking as it was to me, because I haven't seen, I don't follow any of these creators. The most shocking and frightening part for me has been seeing the young teens glorifying these creators in person, recognizing them on the street, asking to take pictures with them. Men, all male, or appearing to be male, male identifying. And it's a doubling down. It's, a hatred towards women. Why? Why is that? What's caused that? I think, many of us, I think, know the answer to the question, but I'm going to leave that question with us, to ponder, to think about. And as we move into a new year, an astrological new year, a spring equinox is actually the beginning of the year. And so as we release what we no longer need, as we let go of old stories, of old ways of being, of ways of functioning in the world, I will say personally that it has been my work to not abandon myself, to not abandon my power, to not abandon my voice, to not silence myself, to not shrink, to make myself smaller, to make things more comfortable. I realized I did that this week, earlier in the week. It's exactly what I did. I shrunk, silenced myself because I turned away from the discomfort. I made things more comfortable to perpetuate what was happening, because I knew it would make other people uncomfortable if I spoke up. And to me, that feels like the last time. The last time that I will do that. And whatever that means in my life, whatever that means in my personal life, my professional life, I have to accept what comes, because it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to change things. Change is uncomfortable. And as for the spiritual journey, I'm still on it. I still believe that there is a universal truth, that there is a connection to us all. I believe that when one of us heals, it heals the collective, that it lightens the load for others. And the more that we talk about it, the more that we speak it, the more that we speak truth, the more connected we become. And I know that is the truth. I'm going to be starting a journey with a small number of folks soon. And I'm excited about it. I'm excited about a lot of things happening. I'm unsure about a lot of things. I'm scared about a lot of things. But I keep taking risks. I keep stepping out, stepping into my own light, into my own power, and not letting other people, other entities, other thoughts identify my worth, my success, whatever that is. I get to measure me. I get to be accountable for me. I don't need anyone else's approval. I don't need anyone else's validation. Getting to a place where that's unnecessary is tough. It's really hard, but that's the direction I'm headed. And I hope that I can speak with Katie again soon. And thank you for being here. I have a lot of gratitude for holding space for me, for listening. Whatever journey that you're on, whatever you are leaning into, whatever you are feeling, opening yourself up to, whatever that is, it's never too late. You're never too old. And you deserve a wonderful life. You deserve it. You deserve to be happy. Thank you. And we'll see you again soon. Ah, great to hear, Deborah. Wonderful. Bye for now.